Initialize sequence. You're tuned in to Intellectual Radio-Podcast.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your weekly dose of R&R, where you relax your mind,
ease your body,
feel your heart,
and free your spirit with a little R&R. I'm DeAndre Rudis.
I'm Raven Hoffman.
And together, we are your hosts for
on
this podcast. Hey, how y'all doing? We've been gone for some time, and we appreciate y'all for missing us because we've definitely been receiving those calls, text messages, and not emails yet, but we're going to get those too. And so we have heard what you've been saying. And so we finally gotten our show to where we're going to be on every first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. So please check for us on Intellectual Radio, co-hosted by iHeartRadio. Anyway, so last week or a couple weeks ago, we pretty much introduced ourselves. We let you all know that Raven here is a counselor. And myself, I'm a business psychologist, and we delved a bit deeper into what it is that we do. And so with this show, what we want to do is we actually want to introduce what we're here for, obviously. And we're here to talk about mental health. And so to do that, we just want to start the conversation. And for me, I want to hear more about mental health because, again, I'm not certified as a mental health practitioner. I am a psychologist, but we study something totally different. And, of course, we'll get into that as we get into the show. But starting off, I just kind of want to ask Raven some questions in regards to what mental health is. And so pretty much that's the question right there. That's the question I'm going to lay out for Raven. I want to ask her, what is mental health?
So mental health is the psychological well-being of absence of mental illness. It is the state of someone's level of functioning, whether it's behavioral or emotional. That answer your question.
Absolutely. And for myself, I kind of want to throw the definition in of what the World Health Organization talks about, and that's WHO. And so WHO says that mental health is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Now, obviously, as a business psychologist, that is extremely important to me. And again, getting a bit later, we'll get into why, because that is something that I currently want to address, which is how we function at work and obviously in our society as a whole, which some of the methods that I'll present to you can help you with both of those. And so keep the conversation going. We just essentially want to talk a little bit about what mental health illness is, the reverse side of mental health. So Raven, what is mental illness?
I feel mental illness and mental health plays hand in hand with each other. I feel like mental illness refers to someone's diagnosis, like whether it's bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, DID, which is dissociative disorder with mixed personalities. So I just feel like mental illness is your diagnosis.
Okay. Can you tell me what some of those diagnoses might look like? And I understand you just did, but some of those I would like to hear more, but especially for the more prevailing ones that are run rapid in our community, such as depression and schizophrenia, and even those addictive behaviors that we don't think about, right? When an individual consumes way too much alcohol on a daily basis,
definitely
too much marijuana on a daily basis, even though it's legal. Shout out to all the clinics around that's helping people cope. But these things are this addictive behavior that people delve into as they try to deal with the daily stresses and traumas of life are actually mental illnesses. Can you speak a little bit to that?
So first thing I'm going to start off is talking about like the warning signs before I give you guys definitions of some of the psychological disorders. So some of the warning signs can be rather feeling sad, confusion, excessive fear, lack of sleep, changes in your appetite, mood swings, mood changes, withdrawal, isolation from friends and family in your daily activities, just not wanting to get out of bed and just that isolation of not even want to take care of your personal hygiene, and problem sleeping, your sex drive change, and then you referring to alcohol and drugs as your coping skills, and also suicidal thoughts. And those are just some of those warning signs that leads up to what your mental illness is, whether it's depression or anxiety or bipolar and so on.
Um, to add, I want to look at again the World Health Organization's definition, which is just in case some of us aren't understanding. I just want to give a definition of what that looks like. That looks like if we say mental disorders, right? We talk about it comprising a broad range of problems, right? With different symptoms for different individuals. However, they're generally characterized by some combination of abnormal thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and relationships with others. Examples, of course, are schizophrenia, depression, intellectual disabilities, disorders due to drug abuse, right? And most of these disorders are successfully treated, typically with talks with a therapist. Not something that I prefer, but with medication. And so, in order to become healthier, we need to start looking at some of the ways in which individuals show these signs of show these illnesses, right? These symptoms of mental disorder. Something that Raven didn't mention that I who am currently trained in mental health first aid, um, I recognize in individuals what I've been taught to look for is we never think about how, let's say someone had a extensive baseball card collection, right? Collecting it for years, probably their whole life, and just out the blue, out the random, they start to say, "Here, I don't want these," right? Like you take them over from me, and it's got you puzzled because again, this is out the blue. So we have to start to think about individuals that's doing things like that. That person is probably contemplating suicide, right? So if you know that this is a prized possession that belongs to that person, at that point is when you start to question things. Okay, are you feeling okay? What's going on? Why would you want to leave me with this, right? And so we need to pay attention to signs like that. We also have to realize that individuals that are pacing back and forth that seem to be stuck in their head, something is typically going wrong with them, right? We, as just people, every day we see individuals doing things like these, and and instead of approaching them just to potentially talk about their day, because that's what humans should do. We should talk to each other. We would rather walk right past that person and say, "No, that person got a problem. That's not something that I want to deal with." And so we are sometimes allowing individuals to fester in their own problems where we could be helped just by asking simple questions, right? And so we want to make sure that individuals start to recognize some of those signs, and when they do, and if it seems very strange, seems different than normal behavior, please just ask the simple question: "Is everything all right?" That could save somebody's life, and you'd never know it. Um, um, and so moving forward, one thing that I realized too that's associated with a lot of these mental health issues that come up is trauma, right? And so trauma is a very common word and is very researched now and is used throughout the medical dictionary in various ways. And one way that I want to talk to Raven about trauma today. I want to go into what trauma is to her.
Wait, you too far. Wait. So I'm gonna go over depression, anxiety, and then I'm also gonna talk about trauma when I explain like what PTSD is. So those are just like different traumas that many adolescents and adults go through. So we're gonna back it up.
Yeah,
So the first mental disorder that I'm going to discuss is depression. I feel like depression is the number one diagnosis that many people faces across the board, which is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness or loss of interest. It affects how a person feel, think, and behave, and it can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems. You have any input or anything you want to say about depression?
No, I'm listening. I'm listening. Come on, give me some more.
All right. Next thing I'm going to go over is anxiety. Anxiety is the mind and the body reacting to stressful, dangerous, or unfamiliar situations. Some examples of anxiety can be overthinking, headaches, sweating, trouble breathing, panic attacks, lack of patience, procrastination, rapid heartbeat, trouble concentrating. So those are examples of anxiety. Next disorder is bipolar. I know many people always joking like, "Oh, she mad all the time. She bipolar," and that's not the case. Bipolar is a manic depression. It's a mental health condition that causes extreme mood swings that includes emotional highs and lows. The next one I'm going to go over is PTSD. I feel like many um, veterans, children that experience trauma in their life experience PTSD, which is a disorder that a person has difficulty recovering after experience or witnessing a terrifying event. It can be flashback, nightmares, or avoiding certain activities.
All right. You know, so I kind of do want to add. Bless you. so, so I do want to add a bit in regards to some of those that you mentioned, and I want to talk. And so we so depression. Let's go back to the depression thing.
Okay.
Depression is common. Depression is very common amongst individuals. Depression is the leading cause of disability within people, affecting 264 million people globally. And so it's something that's very treatable, actually, though. And that is the number one to treat depression is actually by talking to people. But the the thing about depression that most people don't get is that depression is the behavior is the illness and suicide is the behavior. I got that from Raven, and that was the best way that to ever put that. And when we talk about suicide, we're talking about the 10th leading cause of death of people ages 10 and up, right? And so a few more numbers on that is that almost 800,000 people die by suicide every year. One person dies from suicide every 40 seconds. It's the second leading cause of death in individuals aged 15 to 29. When you're coming from areas such as the ones that we come from, whether that's Austin, Lawndale, Inglewood, Auburn, Gresham, and certain other places on the west and south side, the individuals that like us that experience events that can cause us to be depressed, we are almost 10 times as likely to commit suicide as 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 a reaction to the depression that we feel, because most of the time we don't have the outlets in order to deal with the depression. And so and I want to give out some of these numbers a bit later, but because we're talking about suicide at the moment, I want to make sure that everybody has this suicide hotline number in case they think that anybody that they are talking to is feeling any symptoms of depression that could potentially lead to suicide. And that number is 1-800-273-8255. You can call 24 hours a day, and you can just give a bit of information about the individual, and there will be people that will come out and help that person right away. And if you can't call that number, please text 741-741.
Awesome. So, which one you want to go over next, or go into more detail?
Well, for me, I'm a numbers guy, so I just want to make sure that I want to give you guys some numbers in regards to I want to give you guys some numbers in regard to mental health, right, and mental illness, I should say. And so some of the numbers that I found is that neurological and substance use disorders make up 10% of the global burden of disease and 30% of the non-fatal disease burden, right? Around 1 in 5 of the world's children and adolescents have some type of mental disorder. About half of mental disorders begin before the age of 14. Around 1 in 9 people in settings affected by conflict around the world have a moderate or severe mental disorder. People with severe mental disorders die 10 to 20 years earlier than the general population. And the global economy loses about $1 trillion a year in productivity due to depression and anxiety. So, for all my people that's taking off work because they're experiencing symptoms of depression, keep doing so. Um, the economy has no bearing on the way that you feel personally. But I say all those numbers to say that we have to seek help. We have to figure out exactly what we're dealing with, and we have to figure out how to get past it, right? And most of the time, and I'm gonna keep saying it because it is true. The easiest way to deal with some of these things is just talking with individuals, typically certified individuals. But if you can't find that, that's not readily available, you can't afford that, then please just talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to somebody that
Talk to
you
someone you trust,
talk to somebody you trust.
and that's not biased as well.
Sometimes it ain't got to be people you trust. Just talk, right? Because you know what? You might have the best conversation with a stranger you never met. You lay your life on the line, and they lay their life on the line, and you be
That
like, you
can be
know what?
true. That can be true.
You know what? It's not as worse as I thought it is. Because your life seems to be a little bit more. You might be in a worse position than I am, right? And so sometimes it's just having that conversation though, and that's why this podcast was started so that we could just have that conversation. So any individuals out there listening, like, subscribe, comment to the YouTube page, like, subscribe, comment on Facebook,
Follow
on
us on
Instagram.
Instagram.
Absolutely.
Send us questions if you have any questions about, mental health, how to deal with it, some coping skills, or we can refer you to some people for you to communicate with. I know many Black therapists that you can talk to and communicate with. Just hit us up, email us if you have questions and you want to be anonymous. We will answer your question. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Look, we just kind of wanted to touch on those topics, not go too deep and get too heavy about the mental health, mental illness thing, because there's a ton of information out there. And as we continue to do this podcast, we'll continue to shower you with everything you need. The most important thing that we want you to remember to take away from all of this is that you are not alone. There are individuals around the world that deal with the exact same things that you do. And the quicker that you are comfortable with understanding that sharing is a lot better than holding it in, the quicker you will start to heal, right? So to kind of get off that a little bit, one thing that was brought up during our watch sessions and some of the feedback that we got from the first podcast episode we did is a lot of individuals wanted to know what Raven did for work, right? And in fact, I was asking those questions. So I kind of want to go into what Raven's day looks like as a counselor, so she can give you a little bit more detail as to what she deals with, because she deals with individuals who have mental illnesses on a daily basis. So Raven, just tell us something about work. What do you do?
So, a typical Monday in Raven's world. As I stated before, I am a counselor. I work at a hospital on an inpatient psychiatric unit. It's a 21 bed unit. When I get there, the first thing I do, we go into report, and then we'll just go over like how was the patient day, their diagnosis, how are they interacting with other people, and then at the report, I'll go around and I'll take my patient's vitals. After that, we'll do like a community meeting. That's like a group session where people will talk about like if they have any questions or concerns about anything on the unit. I do admission, so a patient will be admitted to the emergency room, or they'll come in from the police station if family, friends, police can't bring patients to the hospital. And I'll just explain like their rights. Once you're admitted into the psych unit, I just want to let everyone know that if you do have your FOID card or your concealed to carry, you will not be able to have that anymore once you're admitted on a psych unit.
Mm.
Also, I like as I said before, I do their admission. I go over like voluntary paperwork, involuntary paperwork. Voluntary pretty much states that you are over the age of 18 and you are here that you want to seek treatment. Involuntary states that you don't want to be admitted. You're only here because your family or friends forcing you to be here. And then that's when the doctor have to go to court with all that paperwork, and then the judge will decide that if you need to be admitted on a psych unit and that you need psych meds. So many people really don't want to go through the hassle of going to court and then the judge forcing meds on them. So many people do sign in voluntarily. I also do like a wrap up group. We just pretty much talk about like how was your day, what are your goals, and like what are you trying to accomplish. So it's pretty much like a group therapy session that I do with the patients admitted on the unit. So that's like my day to day, a typical Monday on site.
All right. So we don't want you to violate HIPAA laws, obviously, but so what are some of the things you've experienced while on the job?
I've been spit on, I've been attacked. So I would say working in this field is not always about the money. You have to like do it for yourself, do it for the heart, like do it because this is something that you enjoy. I don't do it for the money. Making an impact, rather it's on one people live or 10 people lives, lets me know that I am doing my job and I'm giving people that extra. courage, hope, and motivation that even though you're facing these challenges in life and you having these suicidal thoughts due to financial situation or grief, I'm giving you the courage to just, pick yourself back up and, letting you know that you are smart, you are confident, you are worthy. And where you are today, you can be in a total different space 6 months from now. So this job, this career is very rewarding for me. And that's why I'm in grad school, so I can be licensed and start my own private practice, because we do need more Black therapists out here.
Absolutely. Um, so I just want to chime in and make sure that everybody understands that this show will be on every Wednesday, first and third Wednesdays, I should say. I apologize. First and third Wednesdays at 11 a.m. on IntellectualRadio.com, iHeartRadio. Um, well, so you got any more to tell us about the type of work you do? You want to go a little bit further, just in case anybody got any other questions?
No, I deal with people that's schizophrenia. I want to say that the only patient I haven't ran across is DID. And for many of you guys that don't know what DID is, it is I'm probably going to say it wrong.
Dissociative identity disorder.
Yes, dissociative identity disorder. And this is the only mental disorder where you can't take meds and it's not curable.
Have y'all seen Split?
That movie was decent. You've seen the movie Split, that is what DID is. It's a multiple split personality, and it's no treatment. The only way you can treat DID is just going to therapy. So I never experienced splits. I will want to experience it. And many people suffer from DID through childhood emotional neglect or abuse neglect. And it starts before the age of 6. So that's the only mental disorder that's not treatable. So you can be talking to John today and Mike tomorrow. That's split.
Oh, that's crazy, because the movie was awesome, and every time something happened, he turned into a whole different person. It was a 9-year-old boy, a 45-year-old woman, a French man.
And I say, it's crazy. Working with that population, adults or children that suffer with DID, you have to be very calm and empathetic when they switch personalities.
I feel like I got DID. I switch personalities often. Look, I go from playful to serious, 0 to 100 real quick.
You're gonna be my
just like right patient. Now. Hey man, I'm trying to tell you. So I kind of want to get into something fun now. And so we went into detail about Raven does for work. So now we're going to go into detail about what I do for work. And instead of trying to explain what a business psychologist is, I want to do what we do as business psychologists live, so that you can kind of get an understanding of what it is that I do. And so what I have in front of me today is an evaluating your communication / social style profile, right? This was created by Robert Bolton and Dorothy Bolton. They are a husband and wife combination who are psychologists that study social behaviors. And so what this personality assessment essentially is, it is made up of the 4 quadrants of your personality. There are 11 words. Each of the 11 words are going down in a column here. And every column represent a different social style. So there are 4 social styles that everybody adhere to when they are in social settings. Those being in a group, in a team, amongst your friends. At any time of day, you will always revert to your social style. Those 4 social styles are drivers, who we characterize as individuals who get straight to the point. So when we talk about drivers, we use the acronym BLOT, bottom line on top. That means I don't want to hear all of that. What you got to tell me, just tell me the points and get to it quickly. Those people are always moving, right? So we know a bunch of those. We got our analyzers. Those are the individuals, what I term thinking and tinkering. They're constantly thinking about things, and then after they have thought about it, they think some more about those things. And those individuals are patient testing, trust me. Then we have our amiables. Those are our very friendly individuals. So in a team setting, these are the individuals who, let's say let's say we at a party, everybody's up dancing, and it's just that one individual off by himself. our amiables will typically go get that individual, bring them to the celebration because they don't want anybody left out, right? Emotionally, they think about everybody that's involved. And so they want to make sure that the team is the team. They bring a lot of cohesion. I like to call them the glue guys. Our expressives are individuals who are very outgoing, right? Larger than life personalities. These people want to be seen though, right? They do the most obscene, off the wall, are not in the conversation at hand. These they are just super. You're like, okay, well, why? These are the people that you question. But at the heart of it, those individuals are the people that are the most innovative and creative individuals to have on your team. They will think about things that you have never considered, and they will bring such a thoughtful process to what it is that you do that you will be upset that you lack an expressive inside your group. So with that being said, those are the four social styles that everybody will revert to while in a group setting. We've already done this off camera, and so what when we assess Raven, we found Raven to be an analytical person,
I am very analytical.
right? And so to give you a bit of a more of a nuanced definition, our analyticals are thoughtful, reserved, and slow paced. Again, that's that tinkering and thinking thing. They continue to think, right? So people with an analytical style are typically described by others as quiet, logical, sometimes reserved or cautious. They tend to appear distant from others and may not communicate unless there's a specific need to do so. So what they need to be right. I know y'all deal with people who always feel a need to be right. Now, I'm not saying that that's an analytical person, but it could potentially be. What their orientation is, what they do when they're inside of a group, they're thinking, right? Obviously, that's in the name. And then what they need to do in order to grow, they need to declare, right? Declaring is when you proudly stand on where you are. And what I like to say is, you say what you mean what you say, obviously, right? And so if you say, this is what I'm gonna do, hypothetically, this is what I'm gonna do on Monday, that's what you do on Monday. You put it on the schedule, and that's what it stays. You don't change for anything. And so I've been practicing with Raven in regards to declaring and trying to get her to understand that as an analytical, because you're constantly thinking, it will lead you nowhere, right? And I like to say that I gave Raven a task of, okay, I want you to think, I want you to be naturally who you are. But what I need you to do is, when you think, you need to come up with two options, because you got either option A, option B. You think definitively on either of those options, and then you decide where you're gonna go and you move with it. Because if you think for a third time, that's the equivalent of making two left turns. Somebody out there listening know what three left turns. I'm sorry. Somebody know what three left turns are, right? And if I gotta spell it out for you, that's a circle. Three left turns is a circle. So from all my analytical people, all my people that like to think, that like to continue to think and like to think some more, all you doing is going around in circles, and you're driving yourself crazy, right? Because the other individuals that are not analyticals, they don't care about your process. They're not thinking that, oh, whatever I did to her, and I'm making her think about the reciprocate the outcomes, right? The effect of it. Like, they cool, they chilling, right? And that's part of the problems that we get into when we dealing with groups of individuals who don't know themselves that way, right? Because whereas I may do something as a driver and I'm straightforward and I'm like, okay, this is what I expect, this is what I want done. Somebody else who's in an analytical, for example, is thinking like, well, did he really mean that? Because I think he meant, versus and instead of, you come to an individual and say, okay, did you mean this? Did you want this? Did you expect this? You're holding up the process because you haven't come to that individual and said, all right, I understand what you were saying, but this is what I thought about it, and let me know if I'm right or wrong, right? And so to get a little bit further into those type of social styles, I kind of just want to ask Raven, what has come of working with her social style? What has she noticed now that she recognizes she's an analyzer? Has declaring helped her out at all?
I can say I'm a work in progress. I'm working on being more declare. It was an example that DeAndre gave me. It was choice and decision. You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. We can
So if you want to explain into more detail, rather making a choice and making a decision, because when you make, I correct me if I'm wrong. If you make a choice, you stand on that. You don't piggyback from it.
Okay.
And when you make a decision, it's like you're thinking on it. You're deciding. You're not putting your foot down pretty much.
So
Get
I
get the audience more detail.
so for my people listening, right? There are two choices that you make in life. There is a decision and there's a choice. When you make a decision, essentially you're selecting between options, right? So it's easy to say, well, for instance, if we talking about boyfriend, girlfriend, and an individual is doing you dirty and you continue to deal with them, right? Because your two options are that either I could continue to deal with this or I could step away from that person. And if you decide to continue dealing with that person, you just chose that option. But you know what comes with that. And so that's what decision typically is. But when we talk about choice, we're talking about giving ownership to something. And most people don't want to own, for lack of a better word, they don't want to own their shit, right? And so a choice is that ownership piece that comes with it. So if you know you're dealing with somebody that isn't giving you what you expect out of them, and you make the choice, right? At that point, you didn't decide between two options. You made the choice to continue to deal with that person. Everything that comes with that, you cannot feel any type of way, right? Because you've known in your heart of hearts that was the ownership that came with it. So that no longer gives you the license to go to your girlfriends and say he did me like this, right? Because your girlfriend's gonna say, well, what was your choice? They ain't gonna say what did you decide to do, right? That's what I want y'all to understand. Like we need to show ownership in our own lives first and foremost, and we need to stop allowing decisions to rule the day and let our choices be the guides, right? There's two disciplines you're gonna have in life. You're gonna have the pain of discipline, or you're gonna have the pain of regret. And if you're dealing with an individual, whether it's friends, family, or significant other, that is not giving you what you're looking for, what you need, and you decide to continue on with that person, then that's where you're gonna end up crying. You're gonna end up telling all your friends, all your business, and letting them make another decision for you, which is probably something that you wouldn't even thought about. But when you make a choice, when you accept the ownership in your life and say that this is the way that I'm gonna be, and you can no longer do that because your friends are gonna say, "Girl, well, why you continue it? You know what? But that's what I chose. I knew that he was gonna break my heart. I knew that my family member was gonna run out on me, but I made that choice, and I'm happy with that choice." You become happier once you realize the power of decision versus choice. And so what I need that's listening to understand is that you got options. You got options between a decision and a choice. Start making choices. Start making options.
Definitely, and start holding your own self accountable.
Right. Okay. So from this model, knowing that you're an analyzer, what do you think that can help you do on a day-to-day basis?
I'm learning to make more choices in life. I'm not making decisions. I'm holding myself more accountable for the actions and the choices that I'm making in life. I almost said decisions. The choices that I'm making in life. As a analytical, I'm trying not to like overthink so much and just, I want to say, own up to it and just not second guess myself, because I feel like with overthinking, I'm second guessing my choices that I'm making and just being more firm in everything that I do. If that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, my next question is based on what I was telling you about making just giving yourself two choices essentially, right? Whether it's going to be A or B and leave it there. How has that helped you? Or if it hasn't helped you just yet, how do you think it can help you?
Between making a choice between
Yep,
A and B.
just giving yourself two options. We're gonna give ourselves two choices here. We're gonna say A or B. Love them or leave them. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. I would say me personally, I would think about both options. Like I'm the type of person where I'm going to think about how both A and B will interfere with my life. But I'm a person I got to think on and let it marinate. But I will eventually make a choice of rather it's A or B.
Yeah, but see, what we trying to do right with you is get you past that point where it takes forever, though. So my question
It's
is,
not going to take forever. Just give me a day
all
or
right, so
two.
you giving yourself one day. That's what I'm at. See, I want y'all to understand that's listening. Part of my process as a business psychologist is to be on people, right? If I'm gonna work with you, if you're gonna work with me, by the way, if there as we continue to do this, and these are the things that I take individuals through as a business psychologist on a personal level. I will always be direct to you and tell you, okay, this is what you need to do. If you and for anybody listening, it will always be a choice of yours to do these things or not. And so if you're telling me from now on, you're gonna give yourself whatever the thought is, you're gonna say, I have an A and I have a B. I'm gonna take one day to think about it. Are you going to be accountable to yourself to only put one day into choice A or B and then move forward after one day? Are
I
you
feel
saying that?
like no. I feel like it depends on the situation. So with the A and B thing, that's like for example, excuse me, if you're going to a car dealership, right, and you have in your mind that you want this car, you want your note to be this much, you want your car to have this miles on it, and you want your car to have these features. This is your choice. So when going to a dealership, I feel like I'm going to make that choice of A because this is my A. So it depends on the situation. Or that's like if you're buying a house, you're not going to wait a day later because somebody else going to get that house or somebody else is going to get that car. So you have to be firm in making that choice. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, that
No,
is
you don't.
not exactly the concept
Yes, it is.
of, yeah, it is, it is not. So when it comes to decisions that's on that magnitude, right, on that
Mhm.
grand of a scale, and you want to take all the time you can. Like, hold on now, we not gonna tell you to do something like that. You definitely want to take all the time you can. But what I'm referring to
Like a
is
business deal.
we refer to things like business deals. We're talking about things about moving along in life, right?
Okay.
Let's say let's again for because it's so much easier to deal with than anything else. Relationship wise, there's a relationship that's teetering. You know that you want to get out of this relationship, or at least you think, but you're looking at it in two ways, right? You're looking at it like, this is why I'm here, but this is why I should leave, right? So what I'm saying is, at that point, will you take 24 hours to
No,
consider that? No.
no,
Okay. Okay.
I'm out.
Wait, what?
I'm gonna leave. It depends on the
See, nah.
situations. Yes.
See,
So
this is
so give me an example. So we're gonna talk about relationships for like a couple seconds.
Nah, I mean, well, it could be anything in a relationship. I don't know what would be your out for a relationship,
So
right? But
as an analyzer, give me a situation where I have to make a choice, rather
I
love them
mean,
or leave them.
I mean, I mean, I think so. Intuition plays a big part in the way that women typically deal with relationships. To me, so
Yeah.
women know if that relationship is not going to go the way that they want it to. They know what that guy is made of and what he's going to bring to the table. But you know what? Great example. Somebody from work yesterday was celebrating the fact that they just got divorced. Now I said, see, that's why I'm afraid of marriage right now. And she said, no, you just got to go and get the right person. I was like, well, how you know it's the right person? She said, well, honestly, I knew he was the wrong person, but I still stayed. What I'm saying is, when you know that that person is not the right person for you,
Leave.
can you? Yes, but it don't work that way. There are a ton of individuals that always say that. There's a lot of people who don't take ownership in their life that cannot do that right now and will say, at the end of the day, you ask, okay, well, why are you still there? And they will tell you they don't know. So you can say that you would leave, but what I'm asking you to do as an analytical individual, because everybody struggles with the back and forth of relationships. But now that you understand that that's kind of how you are because you're going to think about it, like, can you honestly say that you will take the time? Because you need to take time anyway. Don't ever you can never, ever just leave a relationship because one, you might need closure. Somebody might, one of y'all might feel like, hey, what the deal is.
Sometimes
I
you
think
don't get closure.
You don't.
And I feel like some people be staying in unhealthy relationships because they're comfortable and they don't want to go through that whole experience of, I got to meet somebody new. I got to date again. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? But it's like, would you rather, meet somebody and learn a new person all over again? Or would you just be stuck in this unhealthy relationship that's not watering you and draining you dry?
Okay. So, and great example, right? And so for the purposes of this, and we're not only just talking about relationships, we're talking about friendships, we're talking about business deals, we're talking about finding a new job, right? Can you commit to, again, I don't want because nobody should ever rush into anything, but can you seriously commit to looking at, again, side A, side B, meaning this is the reason why I should continue, or this is the reason why I should sever ties, and actually give that thought for 24 hours and then make that decision and move forward and be done with the decision?
No, I'm not going to give 24 hours. I'm going to make a choice.
All right. Now, yeah, you absolutely make a choice. But you said 24 hours. So what I need for you to do is to stand on, and again, see, as an analytical person,
stand on it.
This is where that declaring there you go. This is where declaring comes into play. So if it ain't 24 hours, if it's not a day, you need to tell me at what point, what is that time period for you that you gonna take to make a choice between A or B?
I'm going to make it right then and there, depending on the situation.
Depending on the situation. Okay. All right.
I don't like the way he's saying this. All right.
So 46. So the reason why I'm saying all right like that is because as an analytical person, that is not who you are. It will never be who you are. You will never make a rash decision. You are not spontaneous.
I am.
So if you are spontaneous, it's haphazard because you haven't thought about it. Like, intricate to who you are, which makes you who you are, is being a person who thinks. And that's great. Everybody should have an individual like yourself around them because you will be the one that will give profound thought to whatever process is being to be had in front of you. But if you're telling me that you're gonna forego who you are and just say, I'm gonna live and let live and make a rash decision like that,
like then, what, go with the flow?
Yeah, that's not gonna work for you. It's never gonna work for you. You're gonna end up right exactly where you started. And that's just the truth, right? And so if you've ever thought about, you can, everybody can, but if you've ever thought in your life that I've gone with the flow and I ended up nowhere, that's because you've gotten away from who you are, what's integral to you, and you've become something that you're not. And so my whole purpose is not to make you something that you're not. It's to accentuate everything that you are. So everything that we do together, and I'm just speaking to the audience as well, if you work with me, everything that we do together will be to accentuate you. I will never tell you to do something that's uncharacteristic of yourself. And I will also always make sure that you are strengthening you as a person. And for my individuals that are also analyticals, I just want to kind of give you some highlights so that if you're listening, you might think like, oh, that's kind of me, or that's somebody that I know. Some highlights of being an analytical are, again, they're slower paced because they're thinking. They take a bit of effort to organize themselves. They show less concern for relationships. They work in a historical time frame, meaning past, present, future. They take action cautiously, not like Raven said right away. No, like we that's absolutely opposite of what you typically do. And then they tend to avoid personal involvement. Those people are typically in the corner somewhere off to themselves, and they can appear very moody, and that's because they've thought so much and they've been so closed off to other individuals doing that thought process that once they start to be around other people, now they emotionally they're showing like, look, I didn't even want to be here in the first place. So be aware of that when you're dealing with analytical people.
Damn,
And
you make it seem like I'm a lame or a bad person. Just kidding.
say no, not in the slightest. I mean, you are who you are, and that's what makes you wonderful. But we just want to make you a better you. That's what my job is. And so people who are seen as analyticals tend to focus on the past. They live life according to facts, principles, processes, logic, and consistency. They behave in ways in which fit into their overall theory and ideas about the world. They are good planners, organizers, problem solvers, and they work on tasks systematically. They sometimes lack enthusiasm or appear cold and detached. Again, like I was saying, with that whole emotional aspect, sometimes they think themselves into a thinking coma, and when they come out of it, they just don't want to be around people. They are reluctant to declare a point of view, obviously straddling the fence and typically taking two sides because they have like I was trying to give to Raven, make sure there's an A and a B. There's just 2 points that you think about, because if you give yourself more, then it becomes that much harder for you to say, okay, this is what I want. They place faith in principles that assume greater importance than personal relationships or personal gratification. They focus on processes and procedures. They are slow to change, and they are very disciplined in their use of time. And so, for all my people out there that are working with individuals that are analytical like I do, you have to take your time. You have to communicate clearly and concisely. You cannot pressure them for answers. So please let them come up and speak to you on their own time when they are ready. Respect their process. That process typically involves them being sheltered away for some time. They might say, hey, I need a day or so to process what I'm thinking. You got to allow them that. Ask directly for their feedback. Don't let them cut corners. Tell them to speak directly to you in a manner in which you can understand and they can understand as well. And above all else, just give them space. Sometimes, again, the emotions that's working from a thinking individual like this can it can confuse a situation, confound it a bit. And so you want to give them as much space as they need so they can think, and so that when they are ready to address you, it'll be the appropriate time, and both of y'all can enjoy that together. Um, and so that's kind of it for me in regards to some of the work that I've been doing, some of the work that I do as a business psychologist, and some of the work that I'm sure I'll work with some of you on that's watching and listening. To kind of round out our podcast today, I want to give some numbers that's related to some of the things that we mentioned. So I want to talk to you about Alcoholics Anonymous. Obviously, one of the mental illness disorders is having addictive behaviors, and a lot of time that manifests itself in drinking. And so, if you deal with anybody like that or know people that need help, please dial 312-346-1475. There's also the National Alliance for Mental Illness, which is NAMI. That number is 312-563-0445. That can get you access to.
Anybody that's struggling with mental illness. Also, we're also going to post these numbers on our social media page. So follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Raven and Brutus.
Remember to check in with us every first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. right here on the IntellectualRadio.com on iHeartRadio. And so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and take y'all out, but we want to leave y'all with a quote.
I'm going to leave you for the quote of today. And the quote is, everything in your life is a reflection of a choice you made. If you want a different result, make a different choice. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Choices.